I'll ask you about Aadhaar 6 months down the line, but tonight the big focus is really about looking ahead for India, our economic vision, our growth vision, and why when everyone describes India as the growth story of the decade, this is India's century. How do you actually break that down? Why do you think India is uniquely poised at this moment in time?
So the first I would say that extending ourselves to saying that this is India's century is very dangerous. We have to remember that we have to get rich before we go old. Our average age will cross 40 by 2053. So we have a narrow window of about 30 years where we have to max out on growth. Otherwise, we'll be like China or Thailand, which are growing old before they get rich. Growth also is not a given. So you have to work hard for it. So this, when I see some of this lazy commentary going on that this is the next 100 years are India's and all that, I think that is very dangerous because that makes people complacent. We have to remember that even China, every 5, 6, 7 years was undertaking very risky, very tough changes, and we have to keep doing that. Now, why are the next 5, 7 years looking very good? The first is that our real estate cycle is turning. See, in a country like India, which is very young, the number of households is expanding at 2.4% a year. Average size of a house has to grow. The quality of a house has to improve. We've had a 10-year downturn in housing construction. And it should have recovered in 2016-17, but then we had RERA and demonetization. 2018, one large NBFC collapse. 2020, COVID hit. What we are seeing now is a cycle which has been delayed by 6 years. And you will see very strong trends right now in even independent home builders building their own houses. We are also seeing substantial improvements in India's services exports. So from doing very brute force Y2K work in IT, we have transitioned to writing software as a service, very high-end software. And I think that trend is very exciting. But non-IT work is also accelerating. So we are running semiconductor fabs from India. We are crunching data for global oil drilling companies. We are running global procurement for US retailers sitting in India. 40-45% of employees for global consulting firms, strategy consulting firms are sitting in India. So this itself is, I think, a very important factor, and this would not have been possible 20 years back, but now is. A country the size of India needs many growth drivers. The third growth driver, I think, is that we had to go through a 10-year process of deleveraging. See, in finance, we discuss about a balance sheet. A balance sheet is nothing but the state of a person. So if, say, I've already run a marathon, can I run another one? And that's very hard. So in 2012, our growth looked very strong. But anyone who looked at our balance sheet, the fact that the companies had taken on a lot of debt, the banks had over-leveraged themselves, the country was borrowing too much from outside to fund its growth, and it was unsustainable. In the last 10 years, we have cleaned all that up. So this is a fresh body now ready to run. There are several other aspects to it, like improvement in macro infrastructure, national highways, better broadband connectivity. We have much better availability of electricity. The distribution system is starting to get cleaned up. You know, the discoms, the payment or the payables, that is the funds that they have not paid yet, is actually fallen very sharply because of some reforms undertaken, smart metering. So there are many fronts on which I think India has changed, transformed. And one last point, and the most important one, is that when you think about a society, an economy, the balance of power between the state and the private sector is very important.
Yes.
So if the state starts to feel threatened by the private sector's growth, or individuals in the state start feeling threatened by or jealous of the growth of the private sector, they start controlling too much, and that slows down the dynamism. This is what is happening in China right now. In India, we are seeing the reverse of that. Okay. The state is willingly ceding space to the private sector, realizing that if India has to grow, then the private sector has to grow, and therefore the state is taking a much more supportive role. There are still glitches. There are still things that you wish were to be changed faster. But I think there is enough there for us to grow at 7% plus in real terms over the next 5 years.